Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hannah. I am a trauma coach who works with Muslim women, helping them heal complex trauma, and I am also a PA who practices medicine. It has been, you know what's so funny? It feels like it's been a month, but it's only been 2 weeks since I posted a video, and I have things to update on, and I just want to come on here, do a casual video, and just share some thoughts, some kind of profound things that came up that I'd love to just give insight on, inshallah. So, you're probably wondering why there weren't as many videos coming up in the past month, and I had been traveling for the past 2 weeks. So first I went to go visit family and see my husband and I went to go visit family. And then after that, we actually went to speak at a camp, a youth camp. And that was so nice. It had been a while since, so I used to do public speaking. I stopped doing it for a few years, and then I started doing it again last year. So I don't often get to just do, lectures with the youth alone. It was so refreshing. And it was nice to see that there are still young people who care deeply about Deen and about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes with all the things you see on social media, you wonder what happened, like what's going on. But it was really, really nice. For those, if you ever, by the way, are interested in having me come to speak at your local masjid, at your MSA, at your whatever it might be, I do speaking engagements. You can go to the link in my bio, inshallah, and the link in the description. And on my website, there is a form you fill out, essentially. Or you can shoot me an email. So that is what was keeping me super busy. When I came back, I had a ton of work to catch up on for my coaching business, getting back to emails. I had a bunch of calls that were backed up. I am finishing up one of my trauma group coaching cohorts. We are coming up on the final week together. It was so, subhanAllah, beautiful and incredible to see the women that I was working with transform. Seeing some of them just managing and fighting demons that they had been fighting for so long, and seeing them overcome it, watching them grow in confidence, watching their nervous system regulate, watching them be able to do things that they never would have even imagined they were able to do, subhanAllah. It is a reminder to me of just how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can create so much impact by his permission. By his permission. I always tell people, like, I'm not the one healing you, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala healing you. But it's so beautiful to see. I also took on 2 new one-on-one clients. If you want to work with me one-on-one or in the group, I open the spots to be able to work with me every few months. So there's a link in the description where you can sign up for the waiting list if you're watching this and there's no spots open, or where you can book a call if you're interested in working with me. But it's just so cool. It's so cool to see. Funny enough, I had a comment on one of my I get this comment pretty often, which it doesn't bother me too much, but the comment was like, oh, there's a difference between what you're doing, a coach, and like a licensed practice counselor or a licensed therapist. And to that, I always say, because I get these comments from therapists, sometimes I get these comments from future therapists, and I'm like, thank you, I know. Right? Contrary to popular belief, I'm actually not stupid, and there's a distinct difference between what a therapist does and what I do. I'm a coach, so I create systems for my clients and plans to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. Sometimes certain methods might intersect. You might find a therapist uses them and I use them. But the point is, coaching is different than therapy. But there are people who love coaching. And I also do trauma coaching, but it's not because I just thought, hey, I'm going to be good at trauma coaching. I have a background in medicine. I have studied psychiatry. I have treated psychiatric patients. I have done my continuing medical education in trauma and trauma-related conditions, right? I have been able to, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, set up a unique program that serves Muslim women, that integrates some of my medical knowledge, my psychiatric knowledge, my mental health knowledge, my community programming experience of over a decade, community organizing experience, plus the Allahumma salli Muhammad, the Islamic education side of things. And very few, I don't, at this point, I do not know someone who does what I do in the way that I do it. I've seen people, who, I've seen some healing coaches, but I don't know to the extent that they also have a medical degree to be able to do such a thing, right? So I'll see those comments and I'm just like, subhanallah. If only they knew what was happening. Subhanallah, they would not speak the way they did. There was one thing that was really profound that came up in a trauma group coaching session that I wanted to share, and I literally had written it down when the client had said what she said. And we were doing one of our sessions around the Islamic element of healing, right? What are the foundations through which the foundational principles that we heal as Muslims, right? Or we have to understand in order to heal as Muslims. And one of the questions that I had asked is, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show up for me? And this specific client had said, and this is in the group, how has Allah not shown up for me? But how have I not shown up for Allah? Right? Like, as in, Allah always shows up for me, but I neglect showing up for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She said it and I was like, what a beautiful level of accountability. And the thing about healing, right? The thing about just this incredible journey that many Muslims will find themselves on is that in order to succeed on it, it requires radical accountability. And if you want to do it in a way that is just like the dunya and the akhirah fall right before you, you have to do it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the center. And the opposite may leave you, well, you might find that even without deen, for example, there are a lot of people, because of religious trauma or traumas in their life, actually end up leaving Islam, right? They take the complete opposite direction. We don't justify it, but to explain is not to justify, right? They may find their healing, but then at what cost? The cost of their akhirah, their eternity, right? Then the opposite end is you might find you did not find the healing, but you are mining for something, for joy, right? For happiness, for freedom and liberation from depression or pain. And instead you ended up mining more hurt and more damage and more pain because you left Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's better to skip all of that and to ensure Allah is at the center of the work that you do, the healing work that you do. And so that was just a really, really cool thing that she had said. And another thing came to mind, which is something I shared with my clients, which is that very often you come to the work of healing, regardless of, you work with a therapist, you go see a psychiatrist, whatever it is, you finally decide that you're going to change your life. You come to that from a place of suffering. But often something we don't think about when it comes to suffering is that suffering is dynamic. And what do I mean by that? Suffering has different levels to it. Two people can have the same exact circumstances, same exact situations, and suffer at completely different levels. And what does that tell us? Suffering is something that we can dial up and dial down, meaning there's elements of it that are in our control. And how empowering and how merciful is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allowed us to have control over our own suffering. Isn't that crazy when you think of it? And this is part of the wisdom of the deen, right? We're going to be tested. We are. And some of us might be in a season of ease, we're not being tested, and some of us might be in a season of hardship, and we are in here just going through it. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates a space for you to still dial down your suffering. Doesn't mean that you might not eradicate your suffering altogether. Some things are just really hard, right? But you can reduce it significantly. And that is so cool. When you think about it, that is so cool, right? You can, based on the people you surround yourself with, the activities that you do, what you do for your physical health, what you do for your mental health, the things that you consume, right? What you watch, what you put into your body, all of these things can affect your suffering. And when you shift your perspective, your mindset from this place of, I'm just suffering and I can't do anything about it, to, hey, there are actually certain things in my control. We call that the locus of control. Now you're back in the driver's seat. You're no longer being dragged around by your trauma and your suffering, right? You're kind of like, you might be stumbling, but you're back on your 2 feet. And that right there, ooh, that opens up a whole new world for you. There are people that I simply don't work with. Like they might apply, they might say, but as soon, if I feel that you are not in a place yet where you have moved into, I want to be in the driver's seat, then we can't work together. Those are individuals who I think are much, much better suited for therapy. You should be going to see a therapist because they can help you identify why that is and be a sounding board for you, right? So I saw that was really, really beautiful. SubhanAllah. Another thing that came up quite a bit that I wanted to share is just around around depression, right? Depression is a debilitating symptom, but often we talk about depression as a disease or an illness, and depression is a symptom, not a disease or an illness. Depression can be a symptom of a disease or illness, right? When we add on to depression other symptoms along with a certain period of time in which you have been depressed, then it moves into a mental illness, or, sometimes depression actually is not a manifestation of a mental illness, but a physical illness. Example, hypothyroidism, right, which has multiple different causes. One of the predominant symptoms that we see is depression. And when you correct the hypothyroidism, you correct the depression. It was nothing to do psychologically. That nuance is really, really important, because when we can come to depression, understanding it as a symptom, it basically is showing, hey, our body is doing something different. Our brain is doing something different. Why is that? And it allows us to have a bit more curiosity about what's going on in our head, in our body, in our lives, right? In our soul, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we do that, we can figure out more with more confidence what the sources underlying the depression are. And this is less to do with trauma. There's some trauma that, some depression that might be a manifestation of trauma, other depression that might not be. You might not have had any trauma, but you're depressed. Then you can identify solutions. And if you are struggling with depression and it is affecting your function, that is a time to be working with a trained professional, a therapist, a counselor. You can identify solutions that really work. I actually made a video a long time ago. Let me see if I can, when it was, right? That talked about 7 different types of depression. And once again, it was all about the idea that the idea that depression is a symptom and it can come from different things. And I never repeated that video. It's an older video. But I really, really enjoyed making it because I felt that it was made 10 months ago. I'll try to remember to link it, inshallah. Your depression can come from a sense of purposelessness, right? Think of people who have everything in the world and like no horrible thing happened to them, but they feel depressed. They may be suffering with purposelessness. There's depression that comes from dopamine burnout, right? Lots of young kids are experiencing depression right now. The way our brain is wired, our dopamine is not supposed to spike over and over again, or it will lead to depression. There's depression that might be secondary to grief. You're grieving, you lost something, and you're depressed because of it. Right? There are lots of different types of depression, and I think that's a good video for anyone to watch if you're interested. Let me think if there's anything else that I wanted to share. No major life updates as of now. We got a new washing machine. That was cool. Our old washing machine, for some reason, I don't know what was going on. It was staining our light clothes like with a black grease. I don't know if it was something coming out of the filter. I know it was something wrong. We ended up getting a new one, alhamdulillah. And that's basically it. Fall is coming. It's autumn, which to me, I don't know why I'm like, the thing, have you guys ever noticed that when seasons change, the memories of the old seasons come with it? So sometimes I'll be in fall and I'll feel like the feelings I used to feel when I was going to school, when I was studying, when I was going to school. But for my UK subscribers, school in the United States refers to any level of education, even if it's university or like a doctorate's degree. So when I used to go to undergrad and like I'd have that like, oh, okay, we gotta get to studying. I feel that, and I have to remind myself I've been done with school for several years now, so I don't have to have that level of anxiety. But that's basically it, you guys. This was nothing more than a silly little video to update you guys, let you know that I'm still here. And thank you guys so much for still sticking around, and sorry for the delay. Inshallah, we'll be getting back to videos about all things healing, all things self-improvement, Islamic personal development. And if you enjoyed this type of content and you're not subscribed already, please hit subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.